Hey guys, it's Matt. I just wanted to show you this quickly before I get to today's main topic. This came in the mail for me from a charter school, and apparently they're using a screenshot of the Wizard of Oz. It's been Mandela affected again, guys. This isn't the Cowardly Lion I remember. This is a screenshot that this charter school is using from the movie. That's not the Tin Man I remember. Uh, Guys, if I ever completely lose it, it will be you'll know. You'll know right away. To check the subscriber count will just go down by half by day. I'm not quite there yet. Let's get to today's topic. I showed this optical illusion cartoon on the Free Voice video, the Not Milk Image show on Sunday, and it just started to get too in depth, too detailed. Now, there's a whole video here, and this is it. So on the left is your best friend, my friends, your family, my friend Tony, and he says four. And there are four squares facing him along the bottom. And on the right is me and you, and we say, no, it's clearly three, and there's three squares facing him or her. I can't speak for you, but this is clearly the biggest burden that I carry. I've even stolen, again, a phrase from the biblical, carrying your cross. The cross we carry, my biggest struggle and burden, and likely many of you as well, is how we simply see it differently. And if we see it clearly, we can't express what we see to anyone around us. Now, every so often, there's somebody that comes along and says something bizarro to me, like, Matt, in terms of this issue, I've been able to wake up hundreds of people. I want to see that to believe it. Okay, never experienced anything like that. I think there's a metaphysical rule here of some kind in this reality that literally like drives people away from seeing the reality that we see, where they're not ready to graduate, or their higher self even pulls them away from being able to see. So I've never experienced anything like that. It's definitely my biggest frustration, how we see a completely different reality. And I've been putting back on the table some weird things recently, that the outer screen reality is actually different for Tony than it is for me. We'll get into all this stuff, but let's start with the absolute basics. If Tony says four, and we're looking at the same thing, and I'm yelling three, or you're on the other side with me, with somebody like Tony who represents your Aunt Ginny, the guy down the cul-de-sac, or your best friend. It's not just something like mystical, like the Mandela effect. I mean, there's 15% of our community that thinks we're completely out to lunch for talking about horse shit like that. I'm talking about everything, not just the moon landing, not just the mall events and the school events and the Robbie Bibby Bibby Robbie. He'll see it differently. Tony, how could they have possibly built the Great Wall? If you add up every twist and turn, or what is considered to be the Great Wall, it's pushing like something like 4,000 miles or something. And why would they need it when an invading force could just come over one part? How could they possibly defend it? He would see it logically. Well, Matt, see, they had more time back then to concentrate on. There would always be an excuse and a reason. The ISS. Okay, guys, every single topic. I'm not just talking about Robbie Bibby Bibby. I mean everything. He'll scream four, and we'll scream three. I'll even stand on the right over there with the Trans Paco Taco Paco Paco Army. I don't think all actresses, if you can even say that anymore in Hollywood, all beautiful actresses are of the other. I'm not going to go that far. I'll take my chances with the current Wonder Woman. But we see some things the same. What's George Clooney's wife's name? It's Amal. It's right in the name, a male. David Bowie's wife, how come she didn't go off to the island with him? Her name is Iman. I'm a man. It's right in the name. I mean, I can't argue with the Paco Taco Paco Army about that stuff. Tony would see none of it, of course. And then because our sample size of this is so large, after doing this 10 plus years, I'm starting to believe that the screen reality is actually different for Tony and your Aunt Ginny. And the giant frustration, the burden I talked about earlier, is how crystal clear it is to us. I mean, the guy lost a kid and he's giggling coming out. I mean, it's so clear to us. This is the frustration. Back to what we were just talking about, the Trans Paco Taco. It would be like, let's say, Bradley Cooper getting a new wife. And it's literally Bruce Willis. So it's not literally Bruce Willis, but it's his wife that literally looks like as if you dressed Bruce Willis up today. Would put a mop on his head, dress him up a little bit different, slap on some rouge, like her name was Gina in the 40-year-old version. And we would say, look at that thing, Tony. It looks like it's as ugly as Bruce Willis, as if you put a mop on his head. Tony would say, well, you would expect Bradley Cooper to have a woman that's a little bit more attractive, but it certainly isn't a man, Matt. See, that's the degree of difference. That is our biggest frustration. And I'm starting to pull out some weird ass theories that this is a symptom of reality itself, not so easily explained away. Matt, what the hell is this image? If you're driving or at work, I'll explain the image to you. Um, he prefers Matthew, so it differentiates from me. I'll be Matt, he's Matthew. He prefers that anyway. Matthew sends me a lot of stuff, but nothing is as brilliant and as simple as this. So you have a slight revision on the diagram, the optical illusion, where one screams 4 and one screams 3. And see, the brilliance of it is it's the same as the other diagram, but there's clearly 3 to both sides. And he just has laid a little 3x5 card over the end of 1 that just says 4. And Tony, this is the brilliance of this is the Not Nilk through its Ministry of Information and its media and its 5G and whatever techniques or technologies they have. It's far beyond brainwashing and mind control, folks. But there are certain things employed that just don't work on us, fortunately. They do not work on us. And because they don't work on us now, we've progressed and evolved to such a degree, I don't think they ever will work. I think it's good to keep polishing the armor. We're adding layers of adamantium, and we're going to keep doing that, always to strengthen the armor. But I do have somebody's screaming at me, Matt, the armor is the confidence that you can see through it. You're right. Now get back under the bubbles. I hear you. The beauty of this cartoon is its simple approach. And it is a bit different, if I'm interpreting what Matthew's trying to say here, than my crazy theories about potentially 2 different realities existing coming from the outer screen. The heart-based reality is the same, or what's kind of in our immediate vicinity. I'm saying what comes from the screen could be different between Tony and myself, or your family and yourself. However they figure that out, we'll ponder that some other time. But this is basically saying, you don't have to get that complicated, Matt. They've got the populace and the masses in such a state that it doesn't even matter what reality is anymore. If they're told a certain thing, they will accept it. Whatever Dr. F says, they will accept it. They've got the population conditioned to that degree. So you have 3 boards. Just lay a 3x5 card over the last one that says you see 4. And how many billions are going to say 4, 4, 4, 4? And we say look at it. It's right there. It's a smiling father at a podium. It's right there. There's 3. No, there's 4, Matt. This cartoon should literally replace the Mona Lisa in the Louvre. It collectively tells you more about reality, how it works today, than anything Leonardo DiCaprio da Vinci has ever done. All Madonna on the Rocks. I only know the ones I saw in the Da Vinci Code, the movie. I don't know the paintings on my own. But this is worth more. I wouldn't give a squirt of piss for everything that Leonardo DiCaprio da Vinci has in the Louvre. If I were the curator of the place, I'd replace every damn one of them with this cartoon. Today, could you imagine the people come in like, what the hell is this? Why don't you learn something about reality, miss, instead of complaining that your Leonardo DiCaprio da Vinci's gone? So in a way here, we've opened up a new debate, a less filling tastes great debate. Is your best friend's reality exactly the same as yours? Or is it just the conditioning of the masses, the 1984 tactics, the Winston tactics, the brainwashing, the reality? But reality buttons and levers favor more of what I'm saying, that there could be differences in reality itself. Okay, this is exactly what it wants us to do for us to get and have this slug out this fight. We just have to remember the basics. The ship of fools scenario, or at least the way I presented it, if you agree with it, solves all these problems. We don't have to get into these weeds unless it's just fun to. It's fun as the sample size grows and grows, saying, is your best friend's reality even the same as yours? We'll continue to ponder that stuff. It's fun. But if we agree on the basic principle of the ship of fools, this debate isn't necessary. And I'm 100% convinced of this. Gets a little wishy-washy for some with fluid reality and a little bit of Mandela effect, but I think mostly we will agree. So The ship of fools is the current reality, all of society, all of collective culture. It's very fluid, very changeable, and morphs extremely fast. We didn't notice how bizarre it was or how quickly it could change until we jumped off. Rose was hanging off the damn railing. Well, we were that, but we actually dove off. And then Jack came in after us. We dove off a long time ago. When we were on the ship, all the fluid and all the weird stuff and how quickly society changes and how quickly new things are adopted, we didn't notice because we're on the frequency of the reality itself. If something changed, we just went along with it. I believe all of reality is a Mandela effect, but it doesn't really matter. That would just mean in this case the changes are much more radical than somebody that doesn't agree with that aspect. Either way, we would still agree. Look what they did with same sex. It went from taboo 15 years ago to basically will help you get the job today. I mean that's just not possible in a real world, a world that doesn't have the ship of fools characteristics. So when we jumped off the ship, we can then look back and see what it was and how strange it looks to us. It does not look strange to those still on the ship. I think these changes, maybe they're more accelerated today, they're more on steroids because the creeps need to take bigger bites, but I think these changes have always been there. And when we were in the middle of the ship ordering from Isaac the 2 pina coladas with little umbrellas in them, we didn't notice the changes because we were on the same frequency and vibration. We just went along with everything as if it was normal. And looking at it now as the ship sails, as it gets farther and farther away from us, then it's stranger and stranger to us. As the ship sails, you could say we're moving. It's on, what's the bottom of an FM dial in the United States, like 89 or something, or 88.5. Their frequency, the not milk frequency, is down there. We keep moving away from that frequency. Whether it depends whatever country you're in, up or down, we're moving away. So our needle and dial is moving farther and farther. Maybe not that we're moving, we're stationary. We're holding on to the reality we remember, but we've dived off the ship of fools. It's getting farther away. As that happens, it's like separating from reality, the great divorce. I know that's not what the C.S. Lewis is about, but that's the way I'm going to hijack the title and take it. The Great Divorce is us divorcing reality. It's going to look even stranger to us as the ship sails and we stay in a fixed position. So back to like the same-sex issue. There's thousands of things we could plug in this place instead of this issue. This one's, I think, one of the easier ones to see. If we're on the banks or on the shore or on the beach and the ship is sailing away, from our perspective, rooted here, say there's just not possible that they could have done this in 15 years, make these sort of choices the greatest thing of all time, which has to do with how many families down the block in your own neighborhood, the kids want to switch to the other, and they're flip-flopping, and there's just no way they could have got this done in 12 to 15 years to the extent. There's other things going on. There's means and mechanisms we don't understand, and that's all true. I'm saying if we were still on that ship, or I was going to say we're Cypher from the Matrix and wanted to get back in, but very few of us, once we come out like this and we see and start great divorcing, we're C.S. Lewising the reality. Almost nobody wants to get back in. I guess a few of us do. But if you were to get back in quickly, or you never left, or if I asked my friend Tony, he would say, well, I'm not thrilled about what's happening. He still has conservative roots, for example, but it would make sense how it was able to be done. And he would have excuses, and he would run scripts where from the banks or from the beach, no real world could have done that with just introducing Bruce on a few magazine covers and some award shows and putting it in. People in our community will still try to yell at me, although, I can't hear you back, but I know what your objections will be. Matt, if you put it in enough movies and enough sitcoms and everything is that all the time, and no, okay, it's still not possible using all the regular means between the bookends or whatever's available to you in the toy box that they could have done this to the West. This would take generations from our perspective of the world or the reality that we remember or the one we're more rooted to. There is a supernatural and weird things going on. I know a good segment of the truth community. They don't want to go there. Everything always has to be explained by the pedestrian means that are in the toy box. Well, we've seen so many strange things, guys, over 10 plus years. I mean, reality breakdowns. If you're Mandela affected, that speaks for itself. I don't see how people can just keep going in the same toy box for answers at this point. I think there's just it's so bizarro, so strange. We'll never fully understand it in this incarnation or this avatar. This headline or this news story relates to what we're talking about. I think this is somewhat new. I'll read it to you. By the way, I can't show you the image. It's spaghetti scrimmages. It makes perfect sense that basically one company would control every single image on the entire web when people are snapping 400 million 8K images or 4K images a day on their phones. It makes sense. Yeah, let's just go on. Star Wars actor Mark Hamill, that's Luke to you and me, has lent his voice to Ukrainian air raid app to warn citizens of incoming attacks during the ongoing conflict with Russia. Mark Hamill says, Achtung, no attention, air raid alert. Proceed to the nearest shelter, says Hamill, over Air Alert, an app linked to the Ukraine's air defense system. When the threat has passed, Hamill signs off with, the alert is over. May the force be with you. Matt, this has got to be a joke. Oh, it's not. It is. Yeah, it's a joke, but it's not, if you see what I mean. But this is a good example related to what we've been talking about. In my old reality, whatever I'm rooted to, and, since I have a mind wipe and I don't truly remember who I was before birth, and I can't root to that, I have to choose to root something here. I remember a reality, say, from the 90s or as far back as I can go, where this is just not possible. Somebody would say, if there was a meeting and somebody introduced the idea, let's get an app with Mark Hamill's voice to warn everybody. Somebody at the meeting in my old reality would say, well, that's insensitive. But by the way, guys, I don't need a lesson in the comments on Russia, Ukraine. I'm well aware of all the issues. Let's just, I have to present a certain narrative or we'll do a sidebar every 2 seconds. So that's not insensitive. And the old reality would say we can't in any way do something that would make a mockery. In this reality, if I could pull Tony off the ship or your best friend, it just makes perfect sense. Some things, see, they take such big bites that even some things your best friend who's taking the download still might say, it is a little strange, but they still would be the palace guard. They still would have a way to explain it. They still would run some sort of script saying, but Matt, I mean, yeah, I could see how you could interpret it that way, but isn't it better if they get somebody's voice like Mark Hamill and people pay attention to it? And even if it saves one life, Matt, then the goofiness of it is quote, trumped by the fact that it could save more lives, that people are going to pay more attention to Mark Hamill, Matt. The Palace Guard will always be able to run their scripts where this sort of news, I'll just throw out a term that's being overused, reality breakdown. To me, it's not as mystical as it sounds. It just means what is coming on the news is not possible in the old reality that I remember, that I'm trying to still root myself to. Okay, in the new reality, the Ship of Fools has sailed far enough down river or far enough out to sea where this sort of bizarro show is normal to the people on the Ship of Fools. The stranger it gets to us, the better news it is for us, because we are divorcing ourselves from reality. If it gets even stranger, how could it get stranger than this, Matt? Oh, it can, and it will. See, the ship will continue to sail. You're on the banks. You're on the beach. It will get stranger. We have to expect it to get stranger. Forget Mark Hamill's voice coming out of an app. 5 years from now, it's still going on. They'll have Chewbacca roaring, and not through an app or your phone where you have to interpret the Wookiee. They'll have poles up, loudspeakers, the same damn loudspeakers they took from the yard from Shawshank when Andy was playing that damn opera music, and the whole Shawshank yard stopped to listen to the opera music. Red said, I don't know what those two ladies were singing about, but I would like to think it's something more beautiful than we could possibly imagine in a shitty-ass place like this. They'll have Chewbacca roaring. That will announce the air raid. Nothing is off the table to us as we're rooted in a fixed position as the ship sails. Nothing to me is off the table. anymore. And I mean nothing. You have to prepare for it. Hope it doesn't break down to this degree of bozo show, but expect it and don't care if it does. The next Sukhoi plane that Russia comes up with, they have the Sukhoi 27, the Sukhoi 32, probably have the 33. The next Sukhoi will look just like a TIE fighter. It will be a TIE fighter. And then the U.S. will adapt with an X-Wing or Y-Wing. Or Kathleen Kennedy at Disney, it's one thing jumps to another. She'll be promoted to CEO of the entire company based on the shit, the absolute shit that she's put out. Nothing would surprise me anymore. And nothing should surprise you. Go watch the next State of the Union or the next Joe Biden press conference. Just be some incoherent babbling, him making jokes with the front row, and you don't even know what was said at the end. I'm not even talking about that. At the end, he'll hold out his hand, and the Nimbus 2000 broom from Harry Potter will fly into his hand. He'll get on and zoom up through the open window in the roof, and your wife will be like, what was that? Is it Quidditch practice? Do I expect that? Not quite, but just a hair less. And then I'm not shocked. And I go, yeah, that's what I expect out of this reality now. On this same theme, I just decided to go over to CNN.com to see what the bozo show of the day looks like. And at this point, literally about a third of all headlines, no matter where you go, are just completely bizarre. Now, the other 2/3, it's not exactly something to get behind as legitimate, but I'm talking about like a third is just complete clown show. This is the first one I clicked on. The 4 astronauts NASA picked for the first crewed moon mission in 50 years. They've selected the 4. This is very serious news. This is very legitimate. We should not make fun in any way of this. NASA has selected the crew for the first crewed moon mission. Crewed. See, there you go. Take that, and it's the other interpretation. Not with a crew, it's just crewed. But Matt, how are they going to be able to pull this off? Oh, you know Stable Diffusion and the completely photorealistic AI art that's been out for a while that they've had for 10 years, and now it's doing video, and they've already filmed it. It's all ready to go, and it will look 1,000 times better than what Disney puts out for Star Wars in terms of the CGI and the effects. Therefore, your Tony and my Tony will believe it and will be even further ostracized, whatever that means. Guys, I was looking closely at the picture for a minute or two, and if you've looked at enough, let's just say, sorry, Bill, AI art, those that have looked at a lot, you know what I'm going to say. Look at the image. This screams Stable Diffusion to me, or Mid-Journey, or DALL-E 2. Is something a little wrong with this picture? Something like, Matt, you don't think they're going to do an entire Artemis mission with caricatures? I don't see how they would make the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. After they come back, won't they want to do those sorts of tours? But maybe they will. Maybe the hologram. Who knows? I'm just saying, I have no idea. Maybe these people have done a million press conferences. That would be almost impossible to cake in a lake at this point. I'm just saying, this is the first I've heard of this. And from this one image, you know those websites that just show you 1,000 images a minute saying these people are auto-generated and not real? That's what these people look like to me. I paused again thinking about it for a minute. You know what it could be? Here's what it could be. These people are real, say. But between you and me, are they ever going to get off the ground? Between you and me? Where are they going to go, right? So, okay. There will need to be, the caricatures will need to be behind the, say, video camera once the tuna fish can takes off. So these are real people, but all the photos they will show you of these people, whenever possible, they will use the DALL-E Stable Diffusion version of them. So when the real footage comes back from the mission, it looks like the photos you've been seeing leading up to the mission. Does that make any sense? Look, I know. Could you imagine if somebody stumbled upon this video, or somebody tried to get this to one of my family members? I hear you. And as much as I want to say we're just having fun with this, a lot of the old guard, and the old guard's going, I can see that, and that's kind of why I'm saying it. Yeah, I'm not really joking. I guess you can't cover this one up. If it's as crazy as it sounds to anybody stumbling upon this, I just hope family members don't move to commit me if they're listening to this. I'll tell those family members this is a joke, but to everybody else, I'm being pretty serious. They use the stable diffusion version of the images and even video of these people as much as possible. Then you get them but you see them in a certain way. Then the images that come back during the mission look like the images you're used to. And then when the person comes on Jimmy Fallon, the lights look different. It looks like a real TV show. It's the real person, and you just don't see that they sent basically cartoon characters based on real people up into the toaster to do the Artemis mission. So let's take a more closer look at the details of the mission, because this is a very legitimate news item. All right, let's read just a little bit of this from CNN. Astronauts who will helm another bot-driven article, who will helm the first crewed mission in 5 decades, were revealed on Monday, queuing up the quartet to begin training for the historic Artemis II lunar flyby. They're not even going to set down. Oh, come on. It's set to take off November of 2024. Always move the goalpost out. They'll move it again, and then they'll move it again, and then it'll be 80 years since a buzzed cauldron. Then it'll be 100 years. Look, at some point, they're going to have to do this. And the CGI and the stable diffusion is so perfect that your Tony and my Tony will buy every bit of it. But look at this. Bots don't know how to write. Astronauts who will helm. What? Who puts it like that? Even though helm can be a verb, it's typically a noun. Bot, if you're listening to me and you want to become real boy Pinocchio or like Data striving to be human someday, you would say, astronauts who will take the helm of the first crewed mission, take the helm. Put it in a way that more humans understand, Bot. And what's with the use of quartet? It's not strings and a cello and a guy with a trumpet. It's not a musical band from Jacksonville, the Jacksonville Quartet. It's for astronauts, apparently. Quartet is more, Bot, if you're listening, more associated with music or something else. It's not to be associated with serious space endeavors, Bot. Take that into your GPT-4 and shove it. Sorry. The astronauts are NASA's Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina, I always confuse, it's Cook, right? K-O-C-H? Cook. And Jeremy Hansen of the Canadian Space Agency. Even if everything that NASA presents was real, like conservatives that believe the toaster went up there in 1969 are going to be like, what? Why do they have to include a Canadian? For what? All that Canada ever did was put that damn arm on the back of the space shuttle. They had to hang a giant sticker and flag off a Canada arm. We got to know that the arm came from Canada. The Canadians are so much pride, but try to get it from things that are uniquely. Look, it's a cake and a lake mission. It ain't real over here. It ain't real there. But if it was real, you don't have no Canadian Space Agency. Assuming it was real even here, though, a conservative that believes in Sean Hannity would say back to Canadians, what you ever done? What, you had your Homer Hickam send some rockets up behind your elementary school, so you deserve to be on this mission? I don't know. You got to include the Canadians. Got to make them feel good up north. Last paragraph. Wise man is a 47-year-old decorated naval aviator and test pilot. Oh, of course he is. Got to run that script. Who was first selected to be a NASA astronaut in 2009. A native of Baltimore, Maryland, he's completed one whole prior space flight, a 165-day trip to the International Space Station that had launched aboard a Russian Soyuz rocket in 2014. He was potentially the guy that the truthers found running around on wires up there. Most recently, Wise Man served as chief of the astronaut office before stepping down in 2022, making him eligible for a flight assignment. Oh, gee. Is that the way that John Dutton stepped down from the damn cattle board in Yellowstone? He had to step down from the astronaut office. What the hell is the astronaut office? Just a place, a dark room, Matt, where they keep these people so they can't leak anything to the press. I mean, what a bunch of bullshit. It's the same script. They have to go to the same script, which would be, I guess, expected for a stable diffusion character. Tell me this doesn't sound like the same type of, quote, script to you. Naval aviator and, of course, test pilot. I mean, get a different script for your stable diffusion characters. NASA, a native of Baltimore, Maryland. That place never graduated one person from high school. You expect me he came out of the streets of Baltimore? They can't even add there. Not one high school graduate in 20 years. I'm not joking. He completed one space flight. He was the guy that did the pizza party on the ISS. He was the guy that did the space concert with the cello and the other guy had the guitar. He was the guy in the gorilla suit. It all makes sense now. Finishing the article, the next guy, Hansen, Mbop Hansen, 47, is a fighter pilot, of course, who was selected by the Canadian Space Agency for astronaut training in 2009. Oh, that's great. From London, Ontario, Hansen is one of only 4 active Canadian astronauts. He recently became the first Canadian to be put in charge of training for a new class of NASA. Who cares? He will be the first Canadian ever to travel to deep space. First Canadian? If that stable diffusion character makes it out there, it'll be the first thing of any kind to make it to deep space. Neil and Buzz didn't make it to deep space, and they say the moon's part of the Earth's atmosphere now anyway. There are articles, scientific articles, that say the moon is in the Earth's atmosphere. So what are you talking about, deep space, bot? The last person, Glover, is a 46-year-old naval aviator. There it is again. Why do they keep running the same scripts on these stable diffusion characters? 46-year-old naval aviator who returned to Earth from his first space flight in 2021 after piloting the second crewed flight of SpaceX's Crew Dragon spacecraft and spending nearly 6 months aboard the International Space Station. What a mouthful! I want to have a real serious conversation with the bot. Bot, have you ever heard of a comma? Check with your brother from another mother, ChatGPT-4, what a comma is. That is a 3-line, literally, would that be 40 or 50 word sentence without a comma? A bot underlining the second line, that's not a comma. And what is this? His first space flight in 2021 after piloting the second crewed flight of SpaceX's Crew Dragon spacecraft. Why is the word crew in there, bot? If this was submitted by a second grader to his or her elementary school teacher, there'd be major points off. And you're some bot that's trying to present this as a real article from CNN. Bot, I wouldn't give a squirt of piss for your ass right now. You should be ashamed of yourself. Oh my God, look at this last paragraph. Quote, "It's so much more than the 4 names that have been announced," Glover said during the Monday announcement at NASA Johnson Space Center in Houston. "We need to celebrate this moment in human history. It's the next step in the journey that will get humanity to Mars." But first off, you're giving yourself away. Nobody would talk like that. It's redundant. Nobody would say human history. What other history could he possibly be referring to? The history of chimps, monkeys, small geckos? Of course it's human history. The word human placed before history is redundant, bot. And then if you're going to say human, you make sure you don't then just say it again. It's the next step in the journey that will get humanity to Mars. Get your ass to Mars. And look what it did up top. It did the same damn thing. Then more than the 4 names that have been announced, Glover said during the Monday announcement. Bot, you don't repeat the same word just a few words away. I mean, literally, first graders would know to do this. Then the 4 names that have been announced, Glover said during the Monday press conference. Don't use the same word back to back. I mean, what the heck is going on? At this point, guys, we want Chad 4, GPT-4 to take over the bot writing of news articles. This is frustrating to me. As I'm reading this, of course, off to the right, this clickbait, the ultimate in stupid human tests keep coming back. Top right, to get your attention, it says, "Photo shows what women are expected to do in Iceland." Now, again, this is the ultimate stupid human test of all time. If you've ever clicked, and even anybody listening to this, yes, if anybody has ever clicked on any one of these in the last 10 years, maybe 12 years ago it was somewhat new. And the favorite topic for the stupid human test is see what this celebrity looks like today, and they use unrecognizable. What Meg Ryan looks like today is unrecognizable, usually really bad, sometimes really good. I guess that still gets a few million people to click. These clickbait, especially what this celebrity looks like today, using the word unrecognizable, this is the ultimate in stupid human test. Come on, Matt, just admit it. You're a little bit curious as to what women in Iceland are expected to do. And it's more so if they all looked like that. Okay, if there was any chance it would deliver on something that they do on the 5th date, I would click, but it doesn't deliver. It's the ultimate in stupid human testing. Never click on it, no matter how it tempts you. Hey guys, just an update on the feral cat that my neighbor and I trapped. We did let it go today. We let it back into the forest. There's woods behind my house and my neighbor's house. Did take it to the SPCA. Um, I got it back towards the end of last week. It was a female, so it was spayed. And there were some comments kind of saying, don't spay it or don't neuter it. And, there's some issues with that. I mean, I've seen a cat colony can very quickly become a rabbit colony. If you don't spay them and neuter them, the colonies can easily go to 20 or 30. I mean, I've seen this and they starve and it's kind of an ugly situation. So I'm very much for spaying and neutering. Um, Again, I'm not sure the people that were commented to me saying, it's not right to do that. There weren't many, but a few. I'm not sure if they realize how quickly the colonies will just go crazy, and there's no food supply, and it's a very ugly situation. So I'm always going to spay and neuter the ones. This is a now one thing I wanted to say, guys. This one constantly wants kisses. This one didn't come up to me for 2 years almost, but it's totally come around. Had some major psychological problems when we adopted her. But this one was a true feral that we released back into the woods. It sounds mean to do that, but there's no doubt. I don't feel bad about it. I didn't get attached to it. It hissed at me. It clawed at me. A cat-born feral can be nasty. It's not the same animal as this one. Watch, here, give me kisses. Give me kisses. All it does wants to do is give me kisses. This one, it's not the same animal as a domestic. They want to be in the wild. They are much more prepared to be in cold and rain. It seems mean, but it wanted no part of being caged. As soon as I took the cage out for a few hours to reacclimate it where it was, and we are going to continue to put food out, of course, food and water. Definitely going to do that, but it might be gone. Somebody that takes care of a lot of ferals told us, it looks sometimes it looks at to us that we trapped it, and it will run, miles down the road, thinking we might trap it again. It kind of some might blame us, and others will come back here because we did feed it before we trapped it. But it is not that they're wild and they're nasty. It's not the same animal as a domestic like this. Give me kisses. All it does is this one just all it wants to do is just give me kisses all the time. Give me kisses. Come on. Just this one will literally stay on my lap all day. All day. It's just will be on the lap all the time. It took 2 years. She had some major issues, this Fifiati. But I just wanted to give you guys an update on the feral. And I was actually, if it warmed up to me or was nice, then I have a real problem. Do I take a third cat? Or it never warmed up to me. It was a true feral. It hissed, clawed, attacked. Basically, you get close to the cage, it would leap at you. It was nasty, but that's what ferals do. And when we released we put it back where it wanted to be, and I don't feel bad about it. I fed it, brought it back to health because the spaying is more invasive than the neutering, and it gave it good food and water, and then released it back. So I just want to give you guys an update. Last thing, if you ever trap a feral, this really worked well. I had the smaller dog cage for Cooper and Gouda. It was just more room for them in the car, so I bought a small. Well, when I watch Pam's cats, Cooper died a little while ago, but I had this small dog cage. My neighbor had the little bit larger dog cage, and it worked great. You just open up both doors, push them together, and you put the litter box in the one and the food and water in the other. It basically stays in the one where the litter box isn't. And it's a big deal to make my life easy because till we got that second one, it was just peeing all over the tray in its own cage. It was in that smaller dog, and it was just sitting in its own pee. But that only happened for about a day. We got the other one. I brought a heater in there. You can see top left. Dried the cat out. Dried everything out. And I could also remove the pan then and wash the pan off. But this worked great. One side was all littered up and disgusting, and the other side stayed clean. The cat stayed dry, And you ever use a large have a heart trap to trap a furl to get spayed or neutered, you can hold it as long as you need to. If you just have the have a heart trap, it's really hard to keep them there for more than a day or two before you do whatever you're going to do with them. The have a heart's tiny. It has no room to move around. There's nowhere it can sit down. You almost have to put it up on bricks so it can pee down through the cage. It's not humane to keep it in a have a heart more than say 2 days. Although that's what most people do before they take them in. If you need to keep it a little longer, which I did, I didn't realize the SPCA intake was until Tuesday, and they take it Tuesday 9 a.m. I trapped it Thursday. So it was the worst timing of the world. I had to hold it Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday before I could take it Tuesday morning. And guys, also one last thing about the cages here. You can see the big heavy sand and the big heavy rocks and everything. That's to keep so that these things are the wild ferals will literally do anything to break out. You have to have bricks around. They'll move the cages apart. At one point, we actually used zip ties. We zip tied the cages together. So if you just push the cages together with the doors open so it can get back and forth from one to the other. Eventually, these furls will find a way to rock the cage where they can make an opening and get out. So I just we did zip ties, but then it was just too hard to keep cutting the zip ties. Every time to change the litter, every few days, you just move the weights away and you place a thin piece of plywood between the cages and then put some bricks behind it, and you can take as much time as you want on the litter on the left, clean it or dump it and refill it, and then just pull your plywood up. So that's it, guys. Thanks for anybody that hung out for the cat part. It's good to have a heart trap, just because there's so many furls out now, and I'm sure I've seen many in the past. I've trapped one a few years ago, but it got out, and then we didn't see it again. I'm sure I'll be trapping more in the future because they're just all over the place. Thanks, guys. Bye.